I'm IFBB Pro Pete, and this is Beyond the Quit. This podcast is for those who've had obstacles in their lives, had struggles in their lives. And while having those struggles, they still needed to accomplish something. They still needed to show up. This podcast are for those people. You may have a goal in mind. You may have been working towards a goal, and then seems like it got derailed. Seems like it stopped you. Life, family, work, um, anything. You just fill in the blanks. Anything could have derailed it. But instead of stopping and quitting, you decided to work through them. So that's what this podcast is about. And it's for you if you've had those obstacles, if you've had those struggles. So you will have guests here that will tell their story of obstacles that could have stopped them, derailed them, but they chose to get back on that train and keep on moving forward and working through them. This episode is a solo episode. So there are moments in life that change you forever, right? Not because you planned them, not because you chose them, but because life decided you were going to carry something extremely heavy. And whether you were ready or not, you were going to learn how strong you really are. So this episode is not about bodybuilding. This episode is about loss. It's about grief. It's about purpose. It's about identity. And it's about why at 50 years old, I'm stepping back onto the stage when everything in me could have stayed down. If you're listening to this and you've been knocked down, flat down by life, this is for you. See, most people only see the highlights, right? The highlight reel. They see the trophies. They see the titles, the discipline, the physique, the stage. But what they don't see is what it costs. They don't see the mornings when you don't want to get up. They don't see the days you're carrying grief so heavy you can barely breathe. They don't see the nights you question absolutely everything. And they definitely don't see what happens when life takes something from you that you can never get back. I stepped away from the stage, the bodybuilding stage, as an IFBB pro, not because I stopped loving bodybuilding. I absolutely love bodybuilding. I love everything about it. But because life broke me. I lost my little sister, and then I lost my twin sister, both to heart disease. And I don't say that casually. I don't say that lightly. If you've never lost someone close to you, you don't understand how it rewires your entire soul. You don't just lose a person, you lose parts of yourself. You lose versions of your future. You lose pieces of your identity. There were days I didn't want to lift, days I didn't want to prep, days I didn't even want to be strong. Not because I'm weak, but because I'm human. And grief doesn't ask permission. It doesn't check your schedule. It doesn't care about your goals. It just shows up and it sits on your chest at every reason to quit. Every excuse would have been justified and the world would have understood. But here's what I realized. My sisters loved what I did. They knew how much this meant to me. They knew how much I loved this. And I know deep in my spirit that they would never want their passing to be the reason I stopped living. I'm turning 50, and that number does something to a man. It makes you reflect. It makes you evaluate. It makes you ask yourself, man, did I live fully? Did I quit too early? Did I leave anything unfinished? And I realized something. I'm not done. Not with bodybuilding, not with my purpose, not with my story, not even with showing my kids what resilience looks like. This comeback is not about proving anything to anybody. It's about honoring the version of me that refused to stay down. I'm doing this for my kids, so they see what perseverance looks like, not in words, but in action. I want them to know life will knock you straight on your face. Loss will hit you harder than a ton of bricks. Grief will visit. Pain will show up uninvited, but you don't quit. You don't fold. You don't let heartbreak define the ending of your story. I don't fear failure. I only fear God. And nervousness, Man, that's not weakness, that's fuel. And I tell my kids that. That's stored energy. That's your body telling you something meaningful is happening. I'm stepping back on the stage, not because I need validation, but because I need to live fully. And if life is going to keep moving, so am I. Now, there's a version of grief people don't talk about. Not the crying, not the funeral, not the sympathy cards. I'm talking about the grief that shows up quietly, the kind that sits with you in the morning when the house is absolutely quiet, the kind that follows you into the gym, the kind that makes you stare at a wall and forget what you are about to do. That grief doesn't scream, it whispers. It says, what's the point? Why keep going? You're already lost too much. And if you're not careful, the voice becomes your story. People think discipline means you're cold, that you're detached, that you're unaffected. That is absolutely not true. Discipline isn't the absence of emotion, it's choosing action in spite of emotion. Some days I don't feel strong. Some days I don't feel motivated. Some days I don't feel like I have anything left, but I still show up. Not because I'm tough, but because I've learned that grief will take everything from you if you let it. And I refuse to let loss define my ending. Here's one of the hardest truths I had to accept. The world doesn't stop when you're hurting. Bills will still keep coming. Kids still need you. Responsibilities still exist. Life still demands your presence. And you can either disappear inside your pain or you can carry it with you and keep moving. I choose to keep moving. People ask me, are you scared to come back? And the truth is, I don't fear failure. Again, I fear God. Everything else is just noise. What I feel isn't fear, it's nervous energy. And nervous energy is not weakness, it's potential. It's your body saying, you know what, this matters. The sport has evolved, the sport meaning bodybuilding. The standards are a lot higher than they were before. The competition is so much deeper. The expectations are heavier. And I love that because I don't want easy. I don't want safe. I don't want comfort. I want challenge because challenge builds character. This comeback is mental, it's spiritual, it's emotional. This is about the man I'm becoming. I'm not chasing who I used to be. I'm building who I'm meant to be now. If my kids ever listen to this, which they probably won't because they always say it's too long or whatever, but I want you to hear me clearly. Life is not going to be kind all the time to you. You will lose people, you will lose dreams, you will lose versions of yourself, but you are not allowed to lose your will. You are not allowed to lose your faith, and you're not allowed to quit on yourself. I don't do this because I love pain. I do this because I love purpose. And I want you to see what resilience looks like. And to you, the listener, if you're listening to this and you've been hit by life and you're tired and you've questioned absolutely everything, I need you to understand something. You don't need to feel strong to be strong. You just need to keep showing up. Some people use grief as a reason to stop living. Me, I use it as a reason to live louder, to love harder, to move with intention, to stop wasting time. I'm not doing this for applause at all. I'm doing this because I refuse to fade quietly. I refuse to let loss define my failure. I refuse to let age become an excuse. And I refuse to let comfort become my ceiling. This isn't a bodybuilding story. This is a human story. And I hope that you can relate. This is about becoming, and I'm not done. So there's something that happens when you lose people you love. You stop assuming time is unlimited. You stop pretending tomorrow is guaranteed. You stop telling yourself, I'll do it someday. God can call me at any time. And this is why I feel so strongly about achieving my purpose. When she died, when both my sisters died, I lost a sense of safety. I lost the illusion that life plays fair. And as painful as that was, it also woke me up. It made me ask, what am I doing with the life I still have? Am I living or just existing? Am I honoring the people I've lost? Or am I shrinking because of them? I've been asked, why now? Because now is all we have. Because I'm 50 and I'm not dead. Because I still feel fire in my chest, if that makes sense. Because I still feel God didn't bring me this far to sit down. Because my kids need to see what resilience looks like, not in words, but in behavior. Let me say this clearly. If you think this is about a trophy, you've missed this entire point. This is about refusing to become invisible. This is about refusing to fade. This is about refusing to tell myself that part of my life is over. This is about standing in the mirror and knowing I didn't quit on myself. We've been fed a lie. And if you've listened to my YouTube shorts for those 40 and over, you'll understand what I'm saying. After a certain age, you're supposed to slow down, right? That your best days are behind you, that ambition is immature, that hunger means ego, that comfort is wisdom. That's a bold-faced lie. Wisdom is knowing what matters and still going after it. If you're listening to this, I don't care how old you are. I don't care how many times you've failed. I don't care how many times you've started over. Let me say this clearly. You are not done. But you do have a choice. You can shrink. You can numb, right? You can coast, or you can rise. This comeback isn't about reliving my past. It's about becoming someone new, which you can become as well. Become stronger emotionally, stronger spiritually, more intentional, more present. This is about walking to the next chapter of my life with my head up. Like I said twice before, I fear only God, not the stage, not judgment, not failure. Everything else is temporary. I don't ask God for easy because he's not going to give it to me anyway. I ask him for strength. And I trust that if he gave me breath today, he expects me to use it. I want you to hear me. This is a life message. What are you still putting off? What are you still waiting on? What are you telling yourself you'll do later? Later is a lie. People are afraid of failure. I'm not. Failure hurts, but it teaches. Now, I used to be scared of failure, but then I realized I'm going to still stand. I'm going to still be able to see another day. I can still make it right, Lord's willing. So don't fear failure. Comfort is what scares me. Comfort doesn't hurt. Comfort feels extremely safe. Comfort feels earned. But comfort is where purpose goes to die. After loss, comfort feels especially tempting because grief exhausts you. It drains you emotionally, it taxes your nervous system, and it makes rest feel like survival. And rest is necessary, but there's a line. Rest restores you, comfort replaces you. And when you cross that line, you don't ever notice it happens. You stop chasing, you stop challenging yourself, you stop stepping into discomfort, not because you're incapable, but because you've convinced yourself it's no longer required. That the most dangerous place a man can live, not broken, not defeated, but comfortable. Because comfort whispers, you're done enough. You're cool. You can chill now. And deep down, you know what? That's a lie. Grief teaches you things no book can. One of the biggest lessons it taught me is that time is an idea. It's like currency, and you don't know how much you have. Before loss, we treat time casually. We assume tomorrow, we delay dreams, we say someday, like it's guaranteed. After loss, that illusion disappears. You stop thinking in decades and you start thinking in moments. You realize how fast life can change, how permanent some endings are, how fragile plans really are. And that awareness does something to you. At least to me, it does. It either paralyzes you or it wakes you up. For me, it woke me up. It made me realize I don't want to leave anything unfinished. I don't want to wonder what if. I don't want to live the rest of my life on autopilot. This comeback isn't about bodybuilding. It's about honoring time. It's about choosing to live fully, not recklessly, but intentionally. Because when you stood close to loss, you stopped wasting the life you still had. I want to touch on that faith part again because faith, if you know me, faith is a huge part of my life. God is number one in my life. Um, and he's a big part on why I decided to go through 15, 16-week prep, put my body through that all over again. Like I said, I fear only God. And that perspective changes everything. Because when you truly fear God, you stop fearing opinions, you stop fearing judgment, you stop fearing embarrassment, you stop fearing the unknown. You start asking better questions. Start asking, am I honoring what I was given? Am I using the time I have? Am I living in purpose or hiding in comfort? I believe God didn't bring me through loss, heartbreak, and grief just so I could shrink. I believe He didn't wake me up today for me to live small. I truly believe He didn't give me breath so I can waste it. I don't ask God for easy. I ask Him for strength, for clarity, for courage, for discipline, because easy doesn't build anything. Easy doesn't change people. Easy doesn't leave a legacy. Faith doesn't remove difficulty. It gives you something stronger than fear. It gives you direction. And when you have direction, you don't need certainty. You just need obedience. One day, every single one of us will do something for the absolute last time. You'll have your last conversation, your last laugh, your last sunrise, your last hug. And most people don't live with that awareness. They live like time is unlimited. They postpone their dreams. They negotiate with their purpose. They wait for a better moment. But I've seen what happens when life decides for you. I've seen how quickly everything can change. And I refuse to live like my life is optional. I refuse to live like my dreams are extra. I refuse to live like purpose is something you get later. Later is not promised. Later is a lie. If I fall forward. If I fail trying. But I will not disappear into comfort, not fade quietly. I will not shrink because life has been, too heavy. I will not quit on myself. This is not about a stage. Yes, I'm reiterating that. This is not about a standard. This is about deciding who you are before life decides for you. This is about honoring the people I've lost by how fully I live. This is about showing my kids that resilience is real. This is about refusing to die with potential still inside me. Again, if you're listening to this and you've been hurt and you've been tired and you've been doubting yourself, hear me. You're not done. You don't need more time. You don't need more permission. You don't need more certainty. You need a decision. I'll be documenting my whole process, my whole progress for the 15, 16 weeks of my prep up until stage day. I'll be posting that, using you guys as my audience as motivation through the highs and lows of prep so you can see it fully and what it entails. This is Beyond the Quit, and my story isn't finished. Neither is yours.